540 Marines were left to die, until one rogue female pilot broke every rule to save them. I was already awake when the radio cracked. You don't sleep properly in a war zone. Not when you're responsible for the lives of 500 men, give or take the ones already missing. The static whispered first, then the voice followed, thin, shaking, almost swallowed by the sandstorm roaring outside our perimeter. "Command, do you copy? This is Echo 9, we're pinned." A pause, a breath, a sound I will never forget. "We're dying out here." My hands froze over the map table. The pen dropped. The world narrowed to a single frequency. Another scream, someone far from the mic, then gunfire, then silence. I leaned closer, lowering my voice like I was afraid the desert itself might overhear my fear. "How many survivors?" A broken voice answered, 540, sir. For now." For now. Two words that dug under my ribs. Before I could respond, another voice snapped onto the channel, sharp, rehearsed, polished. "Command, headquarters, the men who never bled for the decisions they made. All units, hold position. Extraction denied. Repeat, extraction denied." Denied? I felt something cold coil inside me. Something old, something that smelled like betrayal. Static swallowed everything again. I stood alone in the command tent, staring at the radio like it had personally tried to kill my men. And then, quietly, almost timidly, a different voice drifted through the storm. A woman's voice. "Colonel, this is Raven 3. I heard everything. Stay on this channel." I didn't know it yet, but that voice would break rules, break orders, and rewrite the meaning of loyalty. Her name was Captain Lyra Hale, combat pilot, flawless record, terrible at following orders. I'd never spoken to her directly, only seen her reputation float through briefing rooms like a rumor no one wanted to confirm. Brilliant, unpredictable, a danger to protocol. And now she was whispering into my ear across the sandstorm like a ghost violating military law. "Colonel," she said, voice steady despite the storm, "your battalion was purposefully abandoned." Purposefully. Not accidentally, not tactically, purposefully. The cold inside me tightened into something sharper. "Explain," I said. "Tactical command rerouted all air support north. They're pretending the coordinates you sent were corrupted. They're writing off Echo 9 as unsalvageable." My jaw locked. 540 Marines, my men, my responsibility. Written off like defective equipment? I felt the truth forming long before she finished speaking. "They want deniability," she said. "If they don't send help, their hands stay clean." I closed my eyes. Cowards. "They know the enemy took the ridge," she continued. "Any pilot attempting a low-alt rescue would be shot down." Another pause. "That's the official story. And the unofficial?" She exhaled slowly. "I requested the mission anyway. And? Denied. Threatened with grounding, possibly court-martial. So command abandoned my men, and when one pilot tried to step out of line, they chained her to protocol." The betrayal burned slow, like a fuse traveling inward instead of outward. "Why break radio silence?" I asked. "Because I heard them, Colonel." Her voice thinned. "Their screams, their fear. I couldn't ignore it." Something in her tone dug under my armor. A conviction so fierce it sounded almost reckless. Almost. "They will die out there," she whispered. "I know, unless someone breaks the rules." Her words weren't a suggestion. They weren't even a request. They were a confession, a hint, a warning, and a promise. Hours passed. The storm grew worse. The enemy pushed closer to Echo 9. Their gunfire echoed across the dunes like distant thunder. And command? They sat miles away behind reinforced walls, sipping coffee and calling it strategy. I studied the maps again and again. Terrain elevation, wind patterns, ridge placements, enemy choke points. Every rational option ended the same way. Then, her voice cracked through again. "Colonel, I assume you've done the calculations." "I have." "And?" "There is no safe route." "Exactly." A quiet laugh followed, not amused, but grim. She understood the math. She just didn't care. "Lyra," I said, stepping away from the map, "you'll get yourself killed." "No," she said softly, "I'll save your men." "You're one pilot." "I'm the only pilot who will try." Her words hit harder than artillery. I sat down slowly. "You're asking me to authorize a mission command already denied." "No," she said, "I'm asking you to trust me." The silence between us stretched until it felt like a battlefield of its own. I thought of Echo 9. Men huddled behind crumbling rocks, wounded Marines bleeding into sand already stained by others, forgotten, abandoned, sacrificed to bureaucracy. Then I thought of her, a lone pilot, brilliant, disobedient, fearless. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Coordinates, wind tables, enemy AA patterns. The truth command pretends doesn't exist." "And in return?" I whispered. "In return," she said, voice low and steady, "I'll bring your men home or die trying." I felt the war shift inside me. I gave her everything. Data command classified, enemy routes only ground forces knew, weaknesses I wasn't supposed to share. And with each piece of information I transmitted, I could feel the treason breathing between us. Not against the nation, but against the cowards running it. "Colonel," she said as she powered up her engine, "when this is over, they'll come for you." "I know." "And you're still helping me?" "I'm not helping you," I said. "I'm saving them." She didn't answer, but I heard something in the silence. Respect, resolve, fire. The storm broke just as her helicopter rose from the horizon, dark silhouette cutting through the last streaks of lightning. Enemy spotters saw her instantly. They launched flares, warnings, signals. Command channels exploded in fury. "Raven 3, return to base immediately. This is not a sanctioned flight. You are in direct violation of—" She shut them off. Only our private channel remained open. "Colonel," she said quietly, "I'm entering the kill zone." I could hear her heartbeat in her voice. Not fear, but focus so sharp it bordered on inhuman. Anti-air fire lit the sky, bright streaks, arcs of death. But she danced through them, dropping altitude, cutting thrust, slipping between trajectories like she'd trained her whole life for this single, impossible moment. Then the truth arrived. A second signal, encrypted, command level. I opened it expecting the usual threat. What I got instead hollowed me out. "Colonel," the message read, "your battalion was designated expendable during Operation Ridgefall. Withdraw support immediately." Expendable. The word tasted like rust. Not a mistake, not miscommunication, a planned sacrifice. I forwarded the message to her mid-flight. She read it in silence. Then, with a voice colder than the storm she'd flown through, she whispered, "Understood." And she dove even lower, straight into the inferno. No hesitation, no fear, no chance of survival, unless she made her own. Minutes stretched like entire lifetimes. Then, "Colonel, I see them." Her voice trembled. "God, there are so many wounded. Can you land?" "No," she said. "If I land, I won't lift off again. So what's the plan?" She inhaled slowly. "I improvise." And then she executed the most reckless, brilliant extraction I have ever witnessed. She hovered inches above ground, rotors ripping the sand into blinding cyclones. Marines crawled, limped, and dragged each other toward her open bay. "All aboard!" she screamed into the storm. Echo 9 moved like dying men who suddenly remembered what life felt like. But the enemy closed in, fast, ruthless, certain of their victory. "Lyra," I said, gripping the radio tight enough to crack it, "you need to lift off." Not yet. Rounds struck her hull, systems flickered, warning alarms blared. "Now!" I barked. "No," she snapped, "they deserve one clean chance." Her defiance wasn't rebellion anymore. It was loyalty in its purest form. Then, with the last Marine shoved inside, she pulled up, so sharply the helicopter nearly flipped. Gunfire chased her skyward, missiles locked on. She cut power, dropped, restarted, spun, ascended through the only surviving blind spot. Command screamed through every channel, but she ignored them all, except mine. "Colonel," she said once she cleared the ridge, breath uneven, "they're safe." I closed my eyes. Relief hit harder than any explosion. "You did it," I whispered. "No," she said softly, "we did." But the confrontation waiting for me wasn't over. Command stormed into my tent minutes later, faces red, fists clenched, eyes full of political rage. "You authorized this?" the lead officer snarled. "I did." "You leaked classified data?" "I did." "You aided an unsanctioned mission?" "I did." "And you feel no remorse?" I looked at the man whose signature had condemned 540 Marines to die. "No," I said, "only clarity." He stepped closer. "You will answer for this." "I already have." I handed him the decrypted message, the one proving they designated us expendable. His face drained of color. "You leaked this?" "To the Senate Oversight Board," I said, "and to the press." The room froze. The betrayer suffered. The truth cut deeper than any weapon. That night, after the dust settled and the headlines detonated across the world, I sat alone outside the medical tent. 540 Marines lived. Some would heal. Some would never walk again. But they were breathing. Because of her. Lyra sat beside me, arm in a sling, uniform scorched, eyes tired but alive. "They'll court-martial me," she said softly. "Yes. And you?" "Probably worse." She nodded. Silence wrapped around us. Not soft, not gentle, but real. "You regret it?" she asked. I watched the horizon lighten. Dawn creeping across a battlefield that should have become a grave. "No," I said. "I regret trusting the people who wanted you to fail." She didn't smile, but her shoulders eased. "They won't let us stay in the service," she whispered. "No." "So what now?" I looked at her, this woman who defied orders, defied death, defied the kind of fear that paralyzes most men. Now? Now I finally understood something the military had beaten out of me years ago. Courage is not obedience. Loyalty is not silence. And survival is never guaranteed by those in power. "We did what was right," I said. "That's enough." She exhaled slowly. The sun rose, and with it came the truth. Quiet, brutal, final. We had saved 540 Marines and lost our careers. But in that trade, we'd gained something heavier, something cleaner, a power they couldn't take, the power of choosing who we became.
How could you do this?